All right, next item on our agenda in the public forum is plot presentation by Frank King.
Mr. Chairman and board members, it's an honor to be back in Brooks County again. I want to make this observation. It's been, Mr. Chairman, 10 years since I started here when I first came and y'all were beginning to conceptualize a major new building project. And so while I haven't been to a lot of board meetings, I've had a lot of conversation outside the board meeting with folks, and most recently in the last 18 months, Andrew Chastain, who I want to say has been excellent to work with, and if I ask her some type of detailed question, she quickly gives me the answer, so I commend Angela. Because one thing she thought about right before I left today, I got an email reminding me to be here and not at the other building. She did, or I'd be waiting on all y'all to come tonight. But another point I want to make, since I don't get to come a lot, but I do have a lot of conversation with the folks. I work, for the benefit of audience, I work in about 100 schools. And when I call in to Brooks over the years, and it's always been Norma Jean or Janet, generally. Today I talked to Hilda, but I don't get a better reception and get treated with more respect and in a more cordial way than anywhere, any more so than Brooks County is. They just give excellent, they project excellent with your school district, and then when I work with somebody in your office, they're all the same way. So I want to share that with you. The other thing I want to share while I'm here for the benefit of the audience, and I hope the newspapers here, is this superintendent and these folks and some other folks that aren't here tonight have done more, I think, than any school board or just about anybody, taking the resources that you have as a county and using them well for the advancement of the school system. I say that because, and this is not criticism, this is reality. Y'all are not a wealthy county. You bring in, I'm going to talk about SPLOST in a minute, you bring in about $1,100,000 a year. In SPLOST, Lowndes brings it in 2 weeks. And you don't have a real strong digest, and yet, if you look, that your finances have been so well managed, you've got great school facilities. Anyway, I was thinking Brad's been on this board 28 years, and I don't know how long these other men have. There's folks have been here a while, but I hope somebody from time to time is thanking them for what they have done over the years for your school system, because there's a lot of school districts that have resources like yours in terms of finance that don't have near the facilities and the good operation that you've got. So, gentlemen, I commend you for that. Now, SPLOST report. If we could do a couple of things. Really, I think the main point is to come away where you know where you are in your current SPLOST, and maybe any considerations is when to vote again, because one of the things that occurred as you went along, if you remember, in order to finance your school and do more than just, you could have almost just built a minimal school that probably would have lasted 25 years. Instead, you went out, agreed to revote another set of bonds to get a good school facility that's going to serve this community for a long time, but it means that the next SPLOST has to be renewed to pay bonds, or it goes back on the property tax bill. And when y'all planned this, you planned it such that you absolutely didn't want that to happen if there was any way to do it. So let's look first. You got several different colored pages. Turn over to a cream-colored set of projections. It's the 5th page, I believe. If you look at that, that is where you are in the current SPLOST, the first big box is your county 1-cent tax. Sometimes we can get a better picture using that as for projections of the school tax. In your case, not necessarily true. The next box is your school SPLOST collection, which in Brooks County is almost the same school and county. That's not always the case. Sometimes there's discrepancy weighted on the county side, so I do it like this. But look, a couple of points I'd make. Look at 2007 and 2008. Either school or county, and you will see that when we were planning to do the one we're in now, where you were bringing in over $1.3 million a year, $1.350 million. If y'all remember when I came to the meeting, I said, well, for y'all to do what you need to do and get the bond issue started, you just got to take a deep breath, hope you get 2 or 3% growth so you can make the bond payments, and let's go ahead so you can get the school funded properly. Well, what happened? Instead of small growth, one year you had negative growth 12%, the next year 8%. I mean, it just couldn't have worked out, or it just happened poor, just bad. The economy just tanked at the wrong time for y'all. But, and I'll get back, it's not all that bad because you folks have managed your finances well. Look at, in the second box, that dark print that says year ended 2/29/12 base. That's your last 12 months. That's from last March to this February. You'll see what you're averaging monthly. Fortunately, it's starting to come up a little bit. And what you're averaging, or what your next 12 months, if this stays, if you look down at the third box, if you have no more growth, you'll come out, you'll see with about $5,492,000 in this SPLOST. But now here's the difficult part. You see where, like the next 2 years at no growth, you'll bring in $1,128,000. The bond payments are about $1.4 million. Okay, bond payments are about $1.4 million. Disregard right at the very bottom, the red and all. I did that before I got the last bit of information I needed from Angela, and it's not quite accurate. Okay, now turn over to the second or the third white sheet, which should look like this and have a little piece of yellow right up here in the corner. That is the bond debt that is outstanding right now. The first box is the 2006 bonds. Second box is the 2008s, and these are the ones that we're going to need to vote to renew sales tax to pay. That was where we had to come in to get some additional money. Okay. And a total of that is, it says combined total, and what I've got highlighted in yellow is the remainder of this SPLOST, and you see what your annual payments are with 3 years to go, knowing you're just bringing in $1,120,000 or something. Okay. Now I'm moving a little fast. Everybody with me at this point? Okay. Turn over one more. Here's the good news. All numbers are correct, and I'm sure they are. This chart shows your revenue as you have it. You see a column that has $94,000 over and over. That's assuming you have no growth and you keep collecting $94,000 a month. Anything above that is great. Okay, but that's no growth. Chip, you follow where I am on that? Okay. And as you collect it, you'll see columns where you are making interest and principal payments. See 2000, Series 2006 and Series 2008. And you've got coming up April 2012, you've got interest payments on both of them. The good part is, because of wise judgment of this board and not overspending your SPLOST money and managing it, in the last column, you're coming in to this period with about almost $2.8 million in reserve, okay? And by having that and continuing to have no growth, if you come down at the end of this spot, you should have a balance of $1,141,000. Now, obviously, that's not going to be right on the head. That's just a projection, but I mean, that is just extremely well or good considering we've had a shortfall in sales tax that we didn't know was coming. And you still are going to be able to make your payments without having to go to the property tax payer. And as you go into the next block, and your debt service goes down a little, you've got some cushion to get you through that one too. In other words, look at the SPOS to renew. Go back to the sheet we just looked at, the first white sheet. Last column, right under that yellow box, you'll see where the payments drop off to about $1,250,000. And even at no growth, you're about $100,000 short of making those, but you've got over $1 million cushion going in. So that's the good news. So that sort of gives you a picture of where you are. Let's talk about voting considerations. No decisions need to be made tonight, just voting considerations, and then I'll take questions. Look at the goldenrod sheet, looks like this, November schedule. You run out, this ends in June 2014. Your chances to vote before then are this November, next March, next November, and the following March. Okay. Any of those dates, if you vote, you can renew them. Here's an advantage of voting this November to consider. It's a general election. You won't, if you wait and vote 2013, you'll have to pay for the election because it'll be a special election. So it's a general election. One thing that's good though is if for some reason it failed, you've got another year and you could revote the following November before the property taxpayers had to absorb the hit. If they vote this down, they just voted themselves a $3 million increase. Okay? Hopefully they won't do it, but, and this is no reflection on Brooks County, but every county we have one of these go in, there's always some that vote against it. And in one we had last November, a county that had to pay debt with sales tax voted it down. And now they're raising property tax. So who knows, but that's just something over the next few months you may want to talk about. If you decided to vote this November, look at the very middle of the page where it says Friday, August 3rd, 2012. That's when it needs to be put to bed. The resolution approved, ballot question out there, and ready to go. And that'll come on pretty fast. So that's a lot in a short period of time. What, Ms. Folsom, or can y'all, what questions this may have raised that I can answer? Yes, sir.
Projecting the current revenue stream to the end of this clause and adding the reserve to that. Let's say we took every, and even the money's not in reserve, but it's still out there for profit. All of that money, paying the debt down. What would be the interest and principal left to be paid, and would the next clause be enough to, at the same level of income, would that be enough to do it?
Let me say,
Too much information.
one thing I didn't include here is you still have a construction fund, or I'm not sure if you call it that, but you've got a fund with $500,000 or $600,000 in it that's not part of this. This is in your debt service and SPOS collections that haven't been put into debt service.
So not counting that $550,000, but the money that's in reserve, if you apply it, and then when that money is all gone, how much is left to pay, and then what would be What, we would anticipate another 5.3 million, I guess, if I look at these numbers right, from another.
And that is kind of worst case. I mean, that's if
yeah.
everything stays flat. Hopefully they won't for 2019. If they do, gosh, we're, not only y'all, the whole state, country's going, we're going to have some growth, but I'm not, if we stay flat, no growth in the, going into the next spot, I would say you would need between 500,000 and 600,000 of your reserve to make those payments, if that makes sense.
In addition to a full 5 years of.
In addition to full 5 years.
And that would retire all the debt.
That would retire all the debt. But based on based on our projections, I mean, you're going into this renewal SPLOST with that amount. You're going in with 1.1, y'all don't have a real sag. Which, you know, I mean, so you've got revenue.
And I know we anticipate growth, but we've been through a storm. You know, hopefully we're at least have leveled off. So with that projection and basically half of the reserve, we would retire all of the debt that we
That's
currently
exactly right. For 2019, Brooks County would have some and we're totally debt free. And we're paying the debt now with sales tax and not property tax. And it's just a win-win.
So another way to say, if the community passes this next SPLOST, we should anticipate it will retire all the debt, and but in that SPLOST would be very little money to build another school. There would be possibly some for wing or renovation or roof, but nothing, no major.
Nothing
major. Okay, that's
But
that's good information.
You've also got yourself in condition, I think, that you need as little major stuff as any system your size.
That's what we don't. I would agree.
Y'all have done a terrific job managing what resources that you've got. You know, I mean, a school district like Cook that's near y'all sits on that interstate. You just have so many advantages. So yeah, that's the picture. And so in time, I would bat it back and forth. You know, we got T-SPLOST coming in July. No telling what that's going to do. And I don't know when your county commission votes again. That's something else. And we won't go over it on this gray sheet of just steps to consider as you plan the next one. But I mean, that's something. When y'all hired us 10 years ago, you got us through 2019. So we'll help you at no more cost, you know. And all of that thing help y'all get through this thing in the fall if you decide to do it, or whenever.
If I can say one more thing, I appreciate your kind words, but it should be said for everybody here that the guidance of you and your firm have led to those great decisions you brag on us making. And we, at least I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm speaking for all of us and say we appreciate that.
I agree. And we do appreciate that too.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Much